Welcome back to another episode of Arthritic Bourbon Bikepackers. Jerry is advertising for the grind today, the coffee today. Not sponsored, but paid for at the grind. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to talk today a little bit about charity.
Yeah.
So you have this bent. You always have. Let's call it a bent for charity rides, charity raising, fundraising, and things like that. You've done several rides where maybe it's not an actual event, but it might just be one of those where you click up however many miles, people donate per mile, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You've done these in the past. You did another one this last fall?
September.
In September. And there's a local charity here called Lizzie's Walk of Faith. It revolves around a young lady who was, how old was she, 9? 9 years old, had osteosarcoma. She passed away, I don't know, how many years ago was that?
Several now, 4 or 5.
Probably, yeah. And they have this foundation that collects money, and then they make donations to varying charities, one of them being like St. Jude's, where she was treated as well.
Yep.
And so you kind of started this, though. Like there wasn't an actual ride.
The bike, yeah.
The bicycling part of it, right?
Right, yeah.
Tell that story just a little bit so everybody kind of knows the history.
Yeah, so we know the Wampus real well. They've had the event, and I volunteered at the beginning, helping people park and things like that. And Brenda's been involved heavily with John and Jen. But at some point, I was thinking, I'm not a runner. Nobody wants that. And I
because it was like a 5K?
Yeah, it's a 5K. It's a 5K every year. And it's a neat event, A couple things happened. This was even really before the pandemic, I think, really, that I was like, I'd love to be able to do a bike ride, because I had done other fundraising rides. I thought this would really be kind of an easy tack on, and I talked to them about it, and they kind of gave me some press the first year. Miguel and I had this crazy idea, and rode kind of through the night on the Katy Trail and the, the Spur.
How many miles did you guys do? It was year before last, right?
We were trying to do 150. We probably had a couple miles shy of that. We did 150 and kind of started the day prior, but it was raining. The Rock Island Spur was not completed, so it was like cake batter. It was, and he had a little flat initially. So we didn't have to do anything, just sort of stop and get his tubeless kind of under control. But so after that, they said, this really worked out pretty well. Let's see if we can, do a little bit more with it. And I think even next year, we're going to try even more. I think the key is early publicity, getting people going. But yeah, so I had these talks, and I really want to do this. I'm passionate about cycling, willing to, kind of do some of the legwork. And so this year was a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so this year you changed it up. It wasn't going to be on the Katy Trail. You made some decisions, right? Let's hear the backstory of what you kind of were thinking about and what you wound up kind of putting into.
Well, it's hard to do a long ride and then not do something bigger the following year or something a little bit crazier.
Always up in the bar.
Yeah. Until at some point you fail miserably, and then maybe you let off. But I wanted to ride across the whole state for this event.
Okay.
It's not like Texas, so I figured it was doable.
So the idea was to start on the western side, ride all the way to the eastern side.
Yeah.
So dip your toe into Kansas.
Yeah.
And then dip your toe in the Mississippi, basically.
Yeah. And I thought about actually going to where the Missouri River crosses the border and starting, but it was logistically a little more difficult.
Okay. How many miles is that? Do you remember?
Well, my route was kind of circuitous. It was a little over 220.
Okay.
The total.
Yeah.
My route.
Yeah. So, and that's because you were going to try to ride highways that were, you were riding mostly blacktop or pavement, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you were trying to find routes that were lower traffic, maybe had a nice shoulder, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So how did you plan that?
Well, I knew I was going to be kind of in the western part of the state. I was working out there, and I thought I'll just take my bike, take everything, and then, after Thursday, go into Kansas City, and then kind of find a couple routes. It was pretty much, in my opinion, if you don't want to do gravel and a bunch of go rounds, it's 50, 60, 24, 36.
Oh, those are the 4 major highways.
For me, that I'm looking at that I think are feasible with shoulders and things. And as we'll talk about, I miscalculated a little bit.
Gotcha.
And 24 is the closest to us right here. 50 is a little farther south, and I would have had a little more trouble getting there. And I think if you look at which one of those places is within reach, conveniently where I was, and has a place to stay in a hotel and leave your car and not be too inconvenient to go back and get it, that's probably the 24 route.
Okay.
And 24 turns into Independence Avenue right there in Kansas City.
So this started on, is it the 18th?
18th.
I'm stealing your notes a little bit, but it started on September the 18th.
Which is Saturday.
Which is a Saturday on 2021. You go to Kansas City, or you're already in that area. You stayed in a hotel, parked
I
your
stayed
car?
in the Crown Plaza and parked in the garage. Hauled all my stuff up. The routine. It's kind of fun. There's just this strange little Christmas Eve kind of joy.
It's a ritual almost, isn't it?
And you're like, you got your bike and all your bags, all your crap, and you're in a hotel room, and you're like, this is just fun. And you're messing with it, and it's not like a big bike packing trip, but I had to think about what I took, and it's just fun. You're just kind of messing with the bike the day before.
Tweaking things, checking everything over.
Yeah.
Sort of fun. Like analyzing. It's like putting together your Christmas Eve, your Christmas Day toy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So the plan was how long did you estimate this was going to take you?
Well, I figured probably of pedal time, I don't know, probably 20, 22 hours of pedal time. Yeah. And that's if I didn't have any real issues. It gives me some leeway. And it's kind of just looking at average speed for rides, knowing that it's not entirely flat, but it's not Kentucky, so it's not that laborious, I don't think.
So you did plan to stay somewhere overnight. Did you have that mapped out, like worked out, or did you just kind of plan to kind of wing it, or did you have an idea?
I had an idea, and I did make the reservation kind of when I figured I was gonna need it, in which.
But you were en route when you made the reservation?
Pretty sure, yeah. I think it was that morning. I was just thinking about it. I was like, not in the best shape, and I'm like, this is a long ride, and so I went ahead and made this reservation at that place. That's right, I called. It was the day of. I called.
Okay.
And I talked to the lady, and I said, I'm going to arrive really late. It's a tiny little old-fashioned motel. You still check in with paper, and they give you an actual key. And I called her and said, I'm not arriving until about midnight. Gotcha. She said, I'll stay up for you. She was totally
cool. All right. So where did you actually start from? Do you remember?
Yeah, a little place that's called State Line Road. It's like this industrial park. It kind of looks like I was on the set of a Netflix crime-like show.
But you had to ride. You were staying at the Crown Plaza.
Yeah, it was a couple miles to get there.
Yeah, okay.
2.5 miles to get there.
So you rode a couple miles to get over to like the quote-unquote starting point and then kicked off. Yeah. And kind of detail the route just a little bit.
So getting from there to Highway 24 wasn't too bad, especially.
This is in Kansas City, though.
Yeah,
right?
it's Kansas City.
We're talking Kansas City traffic on State Line Road. If anybody is familiar with that area.
Yeah, and it's that place, this time of the morning, right before sunrise, 5:36.
On Saturday, right?
On Saturday. But there's still trucking that's going on, right? And so I saw a couple of the cyclists too, which is interesting. But people are backing their trailers into these loading docks that you couldn't even tell was a real business. And so I kind of snaked through some of that and got on Independence Avenue, which is really, it's 24. But it's in the city, so it's not, and it's old, so it's not, there's no bike lane. And you go on these bumpy sidewalks sometimes, and sometimes on the road. That's where I started having my technical issues. I had headphone issues, just stuff like that. Brakes were a little squishy, and I thought, this kind of, let's see how this goes. And then
kicking it off that way.
Yeah. But, that was the thing, getting to 24, and then knowing that I don't have to worry about it, just stay out of the traffic. And it basically took 24 all the way, went into Lexington, which is where I've been doing some work, and went a little more east of that to Waverly, which is where 24 runs with 65, and crosses the river to Carrollton. And then you're on just 24 again, and I headed east from there all the way to Moberly. And at Moberly, it's where you connect with Highway 63, which is a major north-south route through Missouri now. It took that about 30 miles up to Macon. And that's where I hit 36.
And Macon's where you spent the night.
Yep. That's where I spent a few hours.
So day one is from State Line Road at the border to Macon, Missouri, which is pretty much, do you know how many miles that was?
That was 160.
160?
Yeah.
So day one, you rode 160 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible day.
And I felt it.
You started at sunrise, like what time?
Pretty much, yeah.
What
It
time
was
was
about
it?
6, if I looked at the time.
So roughly 6
pictures
o'clock
are
in the morning.
stamped. I got over the State Line Road probably 5:30, 5:34, 45, something like that.
Yeah, and then rode basically till, what time did you get to Macon? You
Quarter till midnight.
Wow, 15 minutes, like 11:45 p.m.
Yeah.
So you had been riding, that's a long day in the saddle.
It's a long day. And I rested, of course. I'd stop and kind of collapse under some farmer's oak tree at one point where I had my moment, where you always think, am I going to actually do this?
Right. So talk a little bit about what, I know we've kind of jumped into day one, but let's talk a little bit about thinking about that 160 miles. What were you packing along with you on the bike? Kind of give us a brief overview of that.
This is where it's a little ridiculous, of course, as I do, because I took the Fabio's chest, because I thought, okay, I'm probably going to end up staying the night somewhere, at least part of the night. So I had a change of cycling clothes. And I take a toiletry kit, because I've got some asthma meds, blood pressure meds, so I take that stuff, And I even took, pretty sure I took the iPad. I did. I took the iPad and some chargers, because technically I was still taking call. So I was working, kind of, not really, but, made a couple work-related calls. And then some, tools and repair stuff that you always take. Snacks, and I was carrying about, I think it was about 6 or 6.5 liters of some drinking anytime.
Yeah. What was the weather like?
I was blessed with a great couple of days. It was just a little bit of a chill in the morning, but it was sun. For September, you can get some cold nastiness, but it was great. I actually ended up, tank top and sunscreen.
Are we talking, was it like 80 or 80s? Or?
I think it was high 70s, low 80s.
High 70s, low 80s. Perfect weather.
Sure,
basically.
yeah.
That's good.
It was nice. It really was.
What challenges, if any, did you get that first day? You mentioned a little bit earlier, like had a couple little things like headphones.
Yeah, well, and it just, I found out the miscalculation was that Highway 24, the parts I'm familiar with have a good shoulder. But there was a section in the middle I'd never traveled. And there was the disappearing shoulder. And there's some hills, it's kind of rolling farm country. So there were some hills when it got hot and I was tired. I had been, I've been going a while. And when you're running out of shoulder on a hill and there's a grain truck passing you, that got me nervous because it was, I guess, I think the farmers were bringing in their corn.
Yeah, that's corn harvest time.
And it was kind of cool really to see the process as I'm riding, but I don't like to get that close to the grain trucks because they're moving. They're they're like, yeah, I got to get this work done today. Right. And they had a lot of trips to make up and down Highway 24. And I think I saw every grain truck in Missouri. So that was a challenge. I got pretty nervous, actually. That's where I was real tired. And, I love having the mirror because then I can see it coming. And I did sort of get off on an uphill a couple times because of the hill. You don't know who's coming over. So I gave him room, and it was just, it added a little bit of fatigue. And I got to the top of this one hill. I saw this nice tree in the shade under there, and I propped up the bike. I even took a picture of it, and I scribbled nap here. I'll show you later. But then I just sort of crumped for a minute. And that's where I was doing my thinking. I was like, man, this is crazy. Can I really finish this? And then you think, yeah, okay, this is going to be all right. Surely it's not all like this. So I had probably, I don't know, 20, 30 miles that were pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Then when it was dark and I got into, or in the proximity of Moberly, they were doing road work I didn't anticipate. And it was dark and I had to kind of take a little bit of a detour, which it's a little bit unnerving because I knew, I'm like, oh, it's dark. It's late. and I was just kind of getting a little bit unnerved.
And that's one of the things people will say. I mean, that's a scary thing for a lot of people. Riding at night on a bicycle, you're on a highway, but you're on back highways. You had some shoulder, hopefully, in those areas when it got dark.
Yeah.
How did you sort of light yourself for that? Did you think that through, or?
Kind of. I made sure that, I'm kind of building this sort of rig for this for a while. So, I minimize a lot of issues with the roll-off and gauge drive, but I have the dynamo on the front that I've been using for a while with the sine wave beacon, and it's been a pretty durable setup. So, and it sheds a lot of light. And I've got a tail light, and I did put some, I call them Christmas tree lights. I had some LEDs that I wrapped around the triangles on each side. It looked ridiculous, but it'll flash and change colors. And so I had that going when it got dark. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. So you were doing everything you could to say, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah. If I got hit, it had to be a true accident, or someone was asleep, or it was intentional.
Right.
I figure at that point, yeah.
So you get to Macon, 160 miles. You get this lady waits up for you in this little no-tell motel. Let's just call it.
Yeah.
I've seen that place, so I know kind of what it looks like.
It was cool though.
Did you just like crash, or what was it like after that 160-mile day, what was your body telling you?
I should tell you though, first when I was the most tired was during the day, and then when I got through the detour and I went to, I was about the place where I turned north, in Moberly. And it's really funny. I don't know if it was a mind game, but it was such a pick-me-up when I got to the Casey's. They were still open. It was like 9:30. And I got a big Arizona green tea, just cold. It was awesome. And a slice of pizza. Casey's pizza and green tea. And that strip between Moberly and Macon, I made the best time of the whole trip.
Wow.
That 30 miles. Because it was flat. It was great pavement. It's a divided highway with a nice, generous shoulder. It was cool. It had cooled off. I had kind of rested a little, got the nutrition, and I got a fun playlist, and I just sort of, it was crazy.
Second win.
Yeah. But by the time I got to Macon, I was running out of gas again. I was kind of tired. But then she checked me in. I just put my stuff there, and I couldn't quite go right to sleep. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then you're all keyed up and you're sore. And so I honestly, I like to have a bath. I just ran a hot bath and I just kind of sat there, and I had like a snack or something, something else that I had gotten at Casey's, I guess. And then I went to bed. I don't know what time it was, probably 1 or something. I was going to get up at 4 or 5 or something. And maybe it was closer to 2 and I got to sleep. I'm not sure. But the alarm went off, and I haven't had this reaction to an alarm since residency or med school or something. I was like, what is that noise? and I looked and I thought, oh, there is no way it's already 5 or whatever. And so I just shut it off, and I didn't set another alarm, and I just hit the pillow. It was weird. And about maybe 2 hours later, I woke up feeling quite a bit better. So then I went on. Went to the gas station, got my stuff, my coffee and whatnot. Then went to Hannibal.
So that point, it's 36? Right? Highway 36 in Macon runs east and west. You went 36 east, and that takes you to Hannibal, basically.
Hannibal,
which is at the Mississippi River.
Yeah, and there are some hills in Hannibal you'll discover leading up to it, because then 36 kind of does this big climb and stuff. It's not terrible. But, at the end of a 2-day ride, you're kind of wishing it was more flat.
Is another 60, 70 miles? What is it?
Yeah, it was about 60. Because, the whole thing was 220 and that was 160. So, it was about 60.
So day one was a huge day for you. Not like 60 miles is not a big day, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But day two is definitely a little bit. How long did that take you? Do you know what time you got to Hannibal?
I went a little slower. I wanted to get there by noon, but I didn't. I stopped a couple times. I could feel it. I was tired. I stopped at a couple of gas stations, and I would rest for a little bit, a little more than I would on a typical other 50 or 60 mile ride. I kind of took my time. Then when I got into town, I went to there's a little riverfront park. And so I went there, chatted with these folks that could hardly believe I'd spent the last 2 days on my bike. They didn't believe me at first. It was pretty funny. I was just gonna. My original plan. I didn't have a return plan. I was going to rest, maybe even get a room, and then go to like Wentzville or something down 61. But some friends of ours were there because their daughter's going to college, and he was like, "You idiot! Hop in the truck. I'll take you home." So basically, I got a ride home.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. How much money did you raise for that ride? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh! So I think I went north of $1,000 because of social media. People it was generating buzz. And then I did a couple of the FaceTime lives, which I hadn't done before. And then people would just share it, and so then I would get donations from that. It was really kind of cool.
Ah, so you were doing like Facebook Live type thing?
Just like at the beginning and the end, I did a couple, maybe in the middle too. And I would post a couple things. Folks from the clinic in Lexington met me, and I did I think it's the Wahoo Element that gives me a link that I forwarded people, and they were tracking me, and I'd get text messages throughout the day. So really, what that showed me is with a little bit of more planning, I think you can really raise a lot more money for something like that. I didn't know how to handle the social media part of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that is true. That getting the word out there. There's a couple things that people don't always know, and that's that you can do a fundraiser on Facebook, even, and they'll 100% of the donations that go through that actually go to the charity. Facebook doesn't reap fees from that, and a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. It's one of the things that Facebook is in. One of the few good things maybe about Facebook is that, in some people's opinions, is that they and Amazon too, honestly, are very focused on charity stuff, or they have a real system set up for charity stuff. And so you can do those fundraisers, and they actually send all of that money goes straight to the charity. So
that's good.
It's nice to know that, a lot of places take fees for administration and all this stuff. And with Facebook, you can pay with credit cards or whatever, and none of those fees are transferred or anything. So it's kind of nice. Yeah. Anyway, that's cool. That's a great fundraiser, and like you said, I think if anybody's thinking about, and there are a lot of these out there, like, and you can create your own.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to join a fundraiser. You can get on Facebook and say, "I'd like to do a fundraiser," and you get to choose your charity.
Yeah.
And most of the charities have something listed out there, and if they're not, you can encourage them to, because it's free of charge for them to sign up to be a charity.
Yeah.
As long as they have all the necessary charity paperwork, of course.
Yeah. There, like you said, there are a lot out there, and I've done a couple others. I've done an Alzheimer's ride, but it was virtual during the pandemic, the early days, so everything said, we're sorry we can't do it, but let's do it this way. The MS Society does one too, and you almost have to pick a couple that you're really going to sink your teeth into, because the other thing about September is I think it's National Pediatric Cancer Month, so you have to kind of pick what you're going to be involved with, and I have done a couple, but Lizzie's Walk of Faith is what I'm going to do in the fall. It's going to be kind of my thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, we knew the family and the little girl and everything, so it's meaningful in that regard too. But if anybody out there is interested in doing something similar, you can create your own fundraiser. You can jump on. You can choose Lizzie's Walk of Faith as a charity, and you can set your own targets, do your own distance. Maybe your distance is only 60 miles. But you can do something crazy, generate some social media buzz about it, do a couple of those Facebook Live kind of a thing, but when you're getting ready to start, and sort of get it promoted a little bit that way, and maybe stop in the middle and do another one or whatever, and just kind of build a little more momentum for it. It really doesn't matter how much money you raise. What really matters is that you're out there and you're supporting it, and if you do raise money, then boom, you help the charity out.
Yeah, and there's not necessarily a cost to you. You know, you're doing your thing. I mean, I would have probably, given the time, gone on a 1 or 2 day bike ride if I had the chance anyway. You know, I did have to, I'd have a couple hotel rooms involved because of the way this worked out in particular, but you can just do this, you know. I'd say, like I said, I think I'm going to approach it next year with a little bit more prep beforehand to make sure you have some friends or contacts that are well connected that can share your live posts and things, because it was more effective than I thought. I hadn't been able to do a lot of work beforehand on it.
Yeah.
You know, the fundraising aspect of it. So
cool. So as you're thinking about it, anything you would have done differently as far as planning it, thinking it through, gear? What'd you learn?
Well, I definitely, I lucked out because of the weather. And so, you know, if you asked that question under different circumstances, I probably would have been able to say I forgot this or that piece of gear. Probably carried too much, but I did go through a lot of fluids. And so I certainly wasn't carrying too much there. And I did sort of change clothes. And so I had a night stay. I don't think I overpacked it really. There were probably better routes to take. I probably could have found a better north-south route to get on 36 earlier and avoided some of that Highway 24 stuff. But, you know, I did drive some of those places beforehand, you know, but by the time you get so close to it, you made your plans, you have to commit to it. So a little bit of prep work. I did call a couple people that I knew from there and ask them, hey, what's Highway 13 like and stuff? Because sometimes there are shoulders on these roads, but there might be gravel. Or if they're an old road and they had shoulder and they just haven't repaired it in 30 years, you know, it just chips away. And then it's pavement gravel, and it's not worth it. And so I didn't want to ride that. If you're trying to really be steady, you know, chewing up miles, you know, we do a lot of that.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. What else? Was there anything else in your notes?
Oh, I don't know. I was just sort of recreating it to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Don't underestimate the value of a cold drink.
And apparently Casey's Pizza.
Yeah, Casey's Pizza and Arizona green tea. Man, it's like spinach for Popeye.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It really was.
That's cool.
It was fun. It was a fun 2-day deal.
We'll look forward to following along next September.
I got up the ante.
To see what you come up with next.
Yeah.
Because you've gone from like 150 miles to 220 miles.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I'm not a fast cyclist. So if you really want to do a 24-hour period, there's only, you know, you're going to hit the ceiling. And so I got to figure that out. But I think I might want to just try a different route that's you know, just an easier, like Highway 50, Highway 60, and add something to it. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and people, so maybe as we get closer, maybe we'll promote that a little bit so that if folks want to follow along, want to donate, they can know how to do that. So maybe we'll keep things updated as we get closer to that. And then just think about, if you're thinking about a charity ride, how there are a lot of different options. You can create your own, do all kinds of things. I know everyone likes to kind of sometimes do those organized rides, but you can really do your own thing. And you know, if you raise $100, then donate the $100, whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be anything specific.
Yeah, no, it was fun. And it's like the randonneuring thing we've talked about before. It was a lot like that because I didn't have any real support, you know, there's a part of me that really enjoyed that particular, because it combines so many things I enjoy with the fundraising aspect.
Yeah.
So
cool.
It's worth doing. It's definitely worth doing.
All right. Well, thanks for following along. This podcast is on YouTube in video format. It's also on Anchor.fm, where it's distributed to all the major podcast players out there on Apple, Spotify, Google, all those different places. So you can follow along there. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, subscribe and follow along. We don't always do podcasts, but we're trying to do them a little bit more regularly, and we're trying to do a little bit more for 2022 now. Holy cow. The years have switched over on us. So we're going to be thinking that through for the year to come and try to have some more things planned. Thanks for following along, and we'll see you again soon.